I would love it if you would start us off by sharing how you got into this world of spirit babies.
I love this question because I am a trained social science researcher. I really thought I was going to be a professor at a university doing research, teaching, writing grants. And through some interesting experiences in my life, one was being a passenger in a car accident. And Western medicine was not able to help me in a way that was useful. And in fact, at the Stanford Pain Clinic, the doctor there said I would learn to have to live with chronic pain. And I said, no, thank you. So that was one of my first forays going deep into mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn's work, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and cranial sacral therapy, and also acupuncture. Then fast forward into my fertility journey, and that just rocked my world. First child, got pregnant the first time. Everything was great. Second child, got pregnant the first time, had a miscarriage, could not get pregnant again. And it was a very challenging experience, probably one of the most challenging experiences in my life. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And the reason for that is because it cracked me open in so many ways that I didn't know I needed to be cracked open.
I think that's so beautiful. I mean, having lived a 7-year fertility journey myself, like, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, people think I'm fucking crazy when I tell them, like, it's the best damn thing that'll ever happen to you. Like, most women want to strangle me, put me in a headlock when I say that. But what you're saying is so true. I didn't know I needed to be cracked open either. So, like, I think that's beautiful. So say more about that. Like, when you say you got cracked open, what does that mean?
To me, it means everything that I thought I knew how to do needed to be reworked. And it's almost like the slate needed to be wiped clean so that I could really find out who I was at my core. What I had realized for the vast majority of my life is that I was doing things for other people and not myself. And on my fertility journey, it was, thank goodness for my acupuncturist. She asked me if I was interested in a more alternative way of looking at fertility. And that was my introduction to Walter McKitchen, who wrote the book, Spirit Babies, How to Communicate with the Child You're Meant to Have. I didn't even know spirit babies existed. I had no idea. And it was my work with Walter that really showed me that my fertility journey was a lot about a journey of self-love and opening up to a deeper level of self-love for myself so that I could welcome in my next child for my family in a beautiful way.
Wow. I love that. You know, it's funny that you say that because I remember when I was going through fertility treatment, I was driving from where I lived in Northern California down to San Francisco, like multiple times a week, which was a 2-hour commitment, plus the treatment, plus this. And I remember standing there, getting ready to pay for my treatment and seeing 2 books. One was Into the Vortex by Abraham Hicks, and the other one was Spirit Babies with Walter McKitchen. And I was like, what is this bullshit? You know, and I was a prosecutor at the time. I didn't have time for anything, Nancy. I was like, don't talk to me about spirit, nothing. I just need to get pregnant. Okay. I have a trial in May and I need, I'm pushing 40. I need to get this done. Right. So a completely different version of me. I have so much compassion for that part of me. Then it provides a lot of comedic relief when I think about it. But yeah, I mean, I that was the first time I saw that. It's interesting to me that's the setting. Like, I guess maybe you have to be in a place where you're considering some alternatives to consider some alternatives.
I completely agree with that. And for me, it was probably one of the darkest times in my life.
Yeah.
And I did the reproductive endocrinologist, a couple of different ones, could not find anything wrong with me or my partner at the time. And no one had answers. Absolutely no one. And what I finally realized was that I was trying to solve this problem, like getting pregnant, from the same energy that I had created the problem from, if you will. And there's no way to solve that problem from that same energy. And it was such a beautiful wake up call to listen to Walter. I remember my first conversation with him. It was over the phone. I mean, this is way back when, this is many years ago now. And just, hi, Nancy, how can I help you today? And I was just a wreck. And it was so fascinating because everything he said just felt right. It didn't make sense really, but it felt right to me. So I knew that there was something in it for me. I was so intent on, doing what I could to bring my family to fruition. And it was really this more alternative way of looking at things from different perspectives, which is one of the things I love to help people with these days is, yes, we've got that one way. I'm the prosecutor, just get out of my way. And I want to get this done. I want to get pregnant. And there's so many other ways to look at this. Like, what are we learning from the fact that we're not able to get pregnant when we want to? Could there be, another energy involved, like the spirit baby? Maybe the spirit baby isn't ready. Maybe the spirit baby is waiting for you to build some more awareness and to come into your own wholeness before coming into your life. And there's so many different perspectives to look at this from. And that's one of the things I really love to help people look at and contemplate is you're co-creating with your future child. Like, you are bringing in this beautiful energy. And if you're doing it only on your terms, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Right. Well, but when you're struggling, that's a pretty good indicator that your way isn't working. Right.
True.
I mean, that's a pretty good indicator. I mean, well, and it's interesting, Nancy, because I think that's not the way that most of us were trained to consider that. I think we were taught, generally speaking, and I can only speak for, the education I went through, in California, United States, there's sort of this logical and linear progression that you do X, you get Y, you do Y, you get Z. It's this very okay, I'm going to put all of this effort in and I'm going to get a result. But that's great when you're going through school or going through your professional training. We're talking about life here.
Yeah.
Not that simple.
No, to me, it's a very masculine way of approaching things. And oh my gosh, I was great at that. I was great at school, lots of accolades, the whole 9 yards. I had that down to a T. And that is why Walter helped me so much on my journey, is that forcing that masculine energy, like doing this and you're going to get your prize at the end once you put in enough effort. That efforting was actually what was stalling my progress. And I remember Walter saying to me is, Nancy, if you stop trying to think yourself through this, you might have a chance of getting pregnant.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because it's great that you bring up the masculine energy, because I tell women all the time, look, conceiving is all about receiving, and receiving is inherently feminine.
Yeah.
And you've got to be willing to dabble in that, at least for a period of time, right? Moving through that masculine energy into some place that's more receptive, right? It's the inherent nature of the feminine. But I just think that in a lot of ways, that's so foreign to us as women that in a lot of ways, we have to relearn it.
I completely agree. And one of the phrases that Walter McKitchen had me repeat was super simple. I am here to receive. I am here to receive. And I still use that to this day. Because if you think about it, where does creativity come from? It comes from the feminine, not the masculine. And what is from my perspective, the most creative act in the world? I feel bringing in a child.
Mm.
That is just infinitely creative. Like we're working with so many different aspects of things, not just an egg and a sperm, but there's so much involved when we really get into it. And thank goodness for quantum physics these days and so much of the research that is showing us there's so much there that we don't see with our ocular vision.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, I mean, and this, if somebody told me 15 years ago I'd be having a conversation with Spirit Baby Lady, I'd be like, get out of here. You're mental. You got a tumor. Talk to people, right? But I think when that level of awareness opens up in you, which I think a lot of women who are on this journey at some point, at least, I don't know what the percentage would be, but at some point, women who are truly committed to success and calling this child in, however they choose to come in. But there has to be a point when you have enough self-awareness to say, my way isn't working. Something needs to change here. And I know that when I hit that place, that's when I was willing to look at acupuncture, when I was looking at that spooky book called Spirit Babies and, looking at, oh, I'm creating my reality. Like it makes me like, it truly is humbling, Nancy, when you think about the awareness level that we have before the fertility journey and then the level of awareness that comes in as a result of it. I mean, that's why I call it a gift, man. Like, but a lot of people can't receive that. They're not ready to hear it. But so what would you encourage women? So say a woman is in, going to get acupuncture. She's starting to ask questions and then she hears something about spirit babies and it sounds sort of otherworldly, and it kind of is in a good way. But like, what would you tell women this is?
Like that, like connecting with spirit babies or
yeah, like what is that? Because some people, it may seem kind of woo-woo for some people, or maybe some of the women listening are saying, well, what is all this business? What is this? Am I channeling something? So what from your perspective is that?
It's energy. Everything is energy. I'm sitting at a table, the table's energy, we're communicating via Zoom. This is energy. We're energy. Our physical bodies are energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our spirit baby is energy as well. And there's so much research showing that, that everything is energy. And if we can take some time to look at our worldview, and I invite people to expand their worldview if they're interested in it. And a worldview is how we look at the world, right? If we've got black and white, wait, that's two sides, but what about all the stuff in the middle? I mean, what if that is where the answer to your spirit baby or bringing in your child is? It's not at one extreme or the other. It's somewhere in this middle ground. And to me, that's where we want to work with our spirit baby, is in this middle ground. Not like it's got to be just my way, or, I've got to just, listen to all what the professionals say. They know exactly what to do, but they don't know your energy. No one knows your energy more than you do. And the same thing with the spirit baby. They know their energy more than anyone else. So when you are in this co-creative process and you know how to kind of tap into the subtle realm that the spirit babies live in, then you can more easily have inspired action. Because we either need to have intercourse, IVF, or some way to bring in a baby. But if we're just constantly doing, and it's not from an inspired place, we likely aren't going to get really the results that we want.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is there's another realm of consciousness, maybe is one way of putting it, where the spirit babies live. It's before they, their energy at this point, we are spiritual beings having a material experience in these meat suits that we're wearing.
Yes.
So, yeah. And that makes sense to me because I was fascinated when I started studying quantum physics and looking at this pencil looks solid, but under the microscope, it's moving.
Right.
Like the atoms and the space between, just the space between, these atoms that are, electrons and neutrons and all that. Like it sounds insane, but it also, makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you can feel it. So one example is like when I was struggling with fertility, when they told me, oh, Roseanne, you need donor eggs. And I was only 37 at that point. There was something in my body that was screaming no.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I had judgment on the use of donor eggs. That's never been the case. There was just an internal knowing. I'm like, man, that's not my story.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what my story is. I just know it's not that. So I knew like I would have a son, and not like I had any, I had read Walter's book and I was like, I can't say those things that it's in there. I don't know what those
meditations. Yeah.
I'm like, I love you, Walter. That's a bridge too far, bro. Like I can't say those things. But I would love it if you would share, like, so when we're talking about connecting with that spirit baby, like, how does somebody begin to like get into that topic? Like for somebody like me, like my audience is a lot like me, lovably type A, control freaky professional, just trying to get it done. And this is a subject that seems sometimes at times hard to wrap your head around, but like, where would you begin to start exploring that?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I totally resonate with your audience because I've worked at Microsoft, I've worked at eBay. I mean, I've been literally type A personality brought in this lifetime, cross those T's, dot those I's, got it. But really, connecting with your future child is a lot about learning how to connect with yourself first. It starts with being grounded, with being centered, with being in your body. Because if you're not in your body, who is or what is? That is something that I bring to mind pretty much every day. It's like, okay, Nance, work on your grounding here today. Because if you're not in your body, who is? Because some other energy is going to get in there and take that place if you're off doing something and you're not in your body. So the best chance to have to connect with your future child is when you're grounded. It's usually when we're not like trying to solve the problem. We might be out in nature. We might be on the acupuncture table. I get a lot of people saying it's easier for them to connect with their future child when they're in acupuncture. And the reason, from my perspective, is that the acupuncture is helping to open up your energetic meridians, which opens you up more to the energy of the spirit realm. So it's an easier bridge for some people to tap into the energy of their spirit babies. I also like to say that so once you get into your body, then learning how to get into your heart space more. What does that mean? I like to put my hands on my heart. I'm very kinesthetic. I'm a very empathic person too. So I feel very deeply more than most people. And so putting my hands on my heart is a reminder to come from my heart. There's also an amazing organization called HeartMath. And they got a lot of research about the heart. And one of the techniques that they like to talk about is breathing in and out through the heart. So if you want to learn how to get into your heart some more, just imagine breathing in and out from your heart space. To me, the heart space is where the spirit babies speak to us through. If we're trying to communicate from our analytical brain to the spirit baby world, not going to work. They speak a different language, and it's a language through the heart space. So the way the spirit babies speak to us is much more subtle than our conversation here. It may be like all of a sudden you feel a warmth in your body, or you start feeling more peaceful, or you feel like someone's hand is on your shoulder or someone's sitting on your lap. It might be for some of us like a ringing or a buzzing in our ear. That often, as long as you don't have tinnitus or something else that's causing that, that's often a sign from a spirit wanting to connect with you. And those of us who are more auditorily kind of inclined, it may be our spirit baby may connect to us through song lyrics. If you've ever woken up or throughout the day, all of a sudden started singing a song, you're like, what the heck is this from? That could literally be a message from your spirit baby. Spirit babies can also come through animals, through butterflies, through people saying things, through people who know us, who've had a dream about us having a baby. Spirit babies are very creative in how they bring the information. The other thing I like to say about this is when we're trying to connect with our spirit baby, we want them to be there right now, and we want them to talk to us right now. But imagine you're like calling someone. They're not always going to pick up the phone on the other end. They might not be there. They might be out doing something else. We might leave a message, but sometimes, I don't know about you all, but I have an iPhone, and sometimes like a week later, I'm like, there's been a message there for the entire week, and I didn't even know it was there because it never showed up on my phone until a week later. But things like that can happen. So if you don't get a message from your spirit baby right away, ask again from a very loving place and be open to receive the way that they want to communicate with you. If you think it has to be like a verbal dialogue like you and I are having today, not going to work. It's a different language. And when we can slow down enough to allow ourselves to see these subtle clues and to acknowledge the clues around us that are happening all the time, then we have a much better chance of connecting with our future child.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. And I think that, it requires, I just got a book the other day, and it's on its way. When you were talking about the heart, the title of the book was "The Heart Is Not a Pump." And it's interesting because it was, and I haven't read it yet, but I had heard about it on a podcast, and I was like, wow, it's really interesting about all the electricity that is in our heart and how all these different receptors, and it's just this intense creator of energy. We look at it as just a muscle pumping blood, right, but it being a metaphorical center of our body as well. It's just fascinating. And I think that even though maybe those of us that were more stuck in the logical, analytical, place, it was just, it's just a matter of being able to tune back into our natural state of being connected and being willing to feel energy. Whether people want to call it energy or not, or whatever association or connotation that has for them is just fine. But we're feeling it all the time.
Yeah. And the big thing for me that I like to teach people about is to come back into your body. Because our body is giving us clues all the time. It's like when you were saying know that, donor egg is not for me. That is coming from some internal guidance system, if you will.
Yeah.
It's always there. It's just, we've been programmed. I think we've been taught through our culture to not listen to our internal guidance. And so and it's remembering.
And it's sad. When you think about it, like one of the greatest lessons that my own fertility journey gave me, and I'm forever grateful for it, was a return to the feminine. Mm-hmm. Because the feminine is beyond, it's not the heels, it's not the makeup, and it's not the lipstick. It's none of that. It's none of what we've been, I think, manipulated into believing what the feminine is. As you were saying earlier, it is the creative. It's also the spiritual. It's the loving. It's the nurturing. It's the intuitive. Women ask me all the time, how can I be more intuitive? I'm like, you were born with that, baby. You were born knowing what was right for you. And it isn't until much later, through whatever conditioning, and, we could go off probably for an hour on, why this is happening. Mm-hmm. But suffice it to say that, there is a significant disconnection that a lot of us have from the spirit world, from our own intuition, our own knowing, that it makes it so that when we're on this journey, this baby seems just like this thing we're going for, this something to achieve, as opposed to someone to receive.
I love the way you put that. And as you were speaking, it reminded me of something else that I learned from Walter McKitchen, and that I completely agree with, is that many of us, when we're bringing in our child, when we're pregnant, etc., we're going to open up our psychic abilities, our intuitive abilities even more because we're connecting with the spirit realm in a very deep way when we're bringing in a child. It behooves us to open up and be ready for that. It makes the pregnancy so much richer, and it will help us, I feel, in our parenting as well. If you can come from a more intuitive, felt sense place when you're guiding your child through, especially the beginning years, I feel like what a gift. And if we are not open to our intuitive abilities, and some people I know, some of the clients I work with are scared to tap back into their intuition. They don't want to go there. And I was actually one of those. I didn't want to know what was going on with everyone. Like I could, and I remember Walter specifically saying to me, this child is going to open you up incredibly. And that's one of the things she's worried about. She wants to make sure you're okay being cracked open and opened up in this psychic way even more. So it really behooves us to understand that we are innately intuitive. Our babies are going to be coming in with their intuitive capacities built in and ready to go. And if we're open to allowing them to keep their intuitive abilities as much as you want, hey, teenage years, etc., many people just want to fit in. So, we kind of give them wiggle room.
Yeah.
It really helps in, I feel, each of us staying on our soul journey because you're a soul, I'm a soul. Everyone who listens to this is a soul. And every spirit baby is a soul as well. Yeah. We all sign up to come here. We each have our soul journey. If we're not willing to be on our soul's journey, then what are we teaching our future child? That, okay, come on in, but you really don't have to do what you signed up for.
Yeah, I love that point that you're making because, when I'm coaching women, I always tell them, I said, look, this work is as much about calling in this child as is about how you are going to be as a mother. You get to decide ahead of time. Like, when I think back to my own journey, Nancy, I am so grateful my son did not come when I first called him. Yeah. Because I shudder to think of the mother that I would have been. And I honestly believe, first of all, that you'll get this. A lot of people don't get this, but you'll get it. He named himself at around 20 weeks. I was standing there brushing my teeth and I was talking to him. And I'm like, because I talk to him all the time. I was talking to him and I was like, what am I going to name you? What is a name that's appropriate for this miracle boy that I'm calling in after 7 years? They told me would never happen. I was more fertile in my 40s than I was in my 30s. He came naturally, Nancy, after years of treatment. Right. So he knew he had his own plan. And so all of a sudden the name Asher popped in my head. I'm like, Asher? Is that even a name? Like I had to look it up and I'm like, oh, it's Hebrew for happy and blessed. Well, of course this is his name. I'm like, of course, my boy. And I just walked downstairs, told my husband, well, Asher just named himself Asher. Oh. And that was it. And he's such an Asher and he's such and the whole point of that, other than me sharing a mildly interesting story about how my son named himself, was that whole experience, not only my fertility journey, but the pregnancy and the connectedness with him. Like I was technically a high risk pregnancy, but I just trusted him. But I would have never been there, Nancy, had I not had that connection with him. Like there was this mutual trust. And then even as my husband and I parent him now, he has a lot of freedom. Yeah. And we know exactly to your point, he's on his own soul's journey. There is no, we don't fence him in much. He's a little bit feral. He's a good boy. He's a very good boy, very polite, but he's feral in the way that we want him to be feral, in that sense that he gets to be who he is. And I'm so grateful for that lesson.
Yeah, this is that co-creative process that I've been talking about periodically throughout our conversation, is when we And I love that you were communicating with him during your entire pregnancy, and I did with my daughters as well. It just felt like the right thing to do. It just made sense to me. But think about doing that even before the pregnancy. That's where this comes in with the spirit babies, is why not start this conversation ahead of time? Remembering that their timeline may be different than ours. So if they don't come right away, exactly like you were saying, oh my gosh, I'm glad he didn't come in when I first called him in. We may have some more growing to do or some more lessons to learn, or they may have some more lessons to learn before they come here and join our family. So there will be a lot of reasons why, it's not happening right away.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate what you're saying there, because I think there is so much growth that happens on both ends, right? Like growth in bringing the child in, but there's an incredible amount of growth, because a lot of people think that it ends with a positive pregnancy test, and it's like, nah, sister, it's just starting. Because you got 40 weeks of pregnancy, girl. What are you going to do? Live that 40 weeks in fear, right? You can't live like that.
Yeah.
So I think that when you're tapping into this specific thing that you teach and this specific thing that you're talking about, I think it's another tool in our toolkit as conscious women, consciously calling in their children. It's fascinating to me. Like when I think about the women in my practice and all these babies that are being born, when I connect with these women again, like they're like, oh my God, this kid.
Yeah.
Wow. Right. This energy that they're bringing, this, old soul and all of these different things that I hear. And it's like, well, aren't you glad that you now have space for you and space for them?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's such a beautiful gift, I feel, for those of us who are willing to open up and our awareness level to be able to bring in our children from that perspective and to parent from that perspective. It's just, I really feel that it helps all of us stay on our soul's path more easily. And that's what I feel like we're here to do, is we all have beautiful gifts that we're bringing. And the more that we can stay on track with those beautiful gifts, what an honor for this whole planet and for everyone here. Because I feel like, at least the spirit babies I work with, I tend to work with these high vibration babies. They're here. We're at a pivotal time on our beautiful planet to help shift and help people wake up more. And that's what I feel like so many of us are here and we're being called to do in these very interesting ways. And for a lot of us, it's through this fertility journey that opens us up.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I was having a conversation a while back when I had Dr. Christian Northrup on the podcast, and we were talking about, this generation that's coming in now, super high frequency.
Yeah.
Like super high frequency, very interesting energy that's happening. And I think that it's quite a wild time, Nancy, to be a mom, to be calling in a baby. And I think it's really cool. It's an interesting wake-up call for us to grow in awareness so that we know what to do with these high frequency kids as they're coming in.
I agree. I completely agree. And it's interesting that you were bringing this up now, because they have been coming for the last few years. And I've seen this big trajectory over the last couple of years. I'm in the midst of writing a book about this new generation of spirit babies. And it's phenomenal. They are here to really rock our world if we allow them to rock our world in a beautiful way, helping to, I just see like all these bright lights around the world as I'm talking to you. That's a vision I see. Like imagine these beautiful like torch bearers who are here to help shine the light and help us to see our light. And as we bring these beautiful high vibration babies in, it allows us to shine even brighter if we so choose. And it's always a choice.
Yeah. Choices, I think, I tell my ladies all the time, choices are superpower. Like this is the most critical faculty that we have, is our ability to choose. And I think, having this conversation with you, Nancy, I think what's so interesting about this is that instead of focusing on, I just need to get pregnant, I think when women understand the nuance here, they're working on themselves, they're connecting to their baby, they're exploring their femininity, they're, reconnecting with that intuition. When you take it into this context, then it's less about getting there than it is about being fully here and able to receive and see the signs. Because I think, honestly, maybe you experience this too. The more connected you are, the less afraid you are.
Yep. And if you make a choice from fear, I guarantee you're not making a grounded, centered choice. And it's probably not in your best and highest good in the long run. It may work in the short run, but the more we are here, the better it is for everyone. And these spirit babies want us to be here. That's one of the biggest things I see these days is they need grounded mamas. They need, if you want to have this opportunity to bring in this baby and to have them not miscarry, you got to keep your vibration going. And that is a lot through grounding and being just present. And being present, what does that mean? Well, it could be washing the dishes and actually feeling the temperature of the water over your hands, or actually feeling, if you're using a sponge, like washing that dish, feeling it as you're doing it in your shower, feeling the water dripping over you, just being present. You're driving, feeling your hands on that steering wheel. Most of us drive somewhere, we don't even remember the going from point A to point B. Oh my gosh, I'm already here. Yeah. We're not present. So even starting in our everyday life, bringing in more presence, that is huge. That helps us in this whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I love the way you say that. Like in my world, the fearlessly fertile world, we say fear-based choices suck. I like Nancy May's very eloquent, ethereal description of that. But I think that's why there's such synergy here, is I think it's there's an openness that I love that you bring to the conversation. So I appreciate you, Nancy. And we're going to, in this podcast, we're going to put all of your contact information so that the ladies listening, they want to hone their skill on how to connect with their spirit baby. They're going to contact you and get the education that they need. But, I really appreciate what you have shared here. Mm-hmm. And so in parting, what's one thing that you would want women to know from your perspective and what you teach, and maybe some encouragement?
Remember that you're a soul and that you're bringing in a soul. And I invite you all to say at least 3 kind things to yourself every single day. By doing this, you're building this core of beautiful, positive energy. And what a beautiful gift for yourself and your future child. And what a great role model that is. It's so powerful.
I love that. Well, thank you, Nancy. This has been very enlightening. It's been fun. And I think taking the subject of spirit babies and us connecting to this child that we know is for us, I think this has really taken it out of the woo-woo and made it actually very practical, and makes it hey, of course I'm going to have a connection with my baby. Now it's about tapping into that. So I think that's brilliant. And we really appreciate you having you on.
Thank you so much, Roseanne. It's been such a joy being here with you, and so fun, and just lots of love and good thoughts to everyone.
Love this episode of the Fearlessly Fertile podcast? Subscribe now and leave an awesome review. Remember, the desire in your heart to be a mom is there because it was meant for you. When it comes to your dreams, keep saying hell yes.